Yeah. Okay. Well, very nice to see so many people at Saladana. That's great. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. You know, hopefully it'll be just as fun or rewarding there with a nice group like that, with me not there, but just coming through the TV. You know, it's one of our three jewels, right? It's the Sangha, it's the community. And I think over these last, 6 years, the English speaking community Sangha that we've had has really been lovely, just lovely. Oh, nice to see some people online too. I can see that Laura might be there. Denise is there. Emilio might be. Is the air conditioning still not working, or what is one of the machines is working, right? And the other one is not working? They're working? Oh, good. I don't know. Let me see if I tap in.
Have different failures, so I'll turn one off.
Say that again, Carlos. Different failures? Is that what you said? On there. Hi, Laura. You know, one thing I'm looking forward to, and I think we're getting closer and closer. In fact, you know, the Spanish plan of getting everybody vaccinated, which I believe now, according to the news, is like 70%, is really showing up in the numbers. The cases, there's more cases in Arizona practically than there is in all of Spain. And I think it's really because of the effort to get vaccinated. But I think we're getting closer to because the Sunday Sangha used to have a little tea break. And then the community really got to get to know each other and stuff. I think we're getting close to that. I think we could start having a break and maybe have a little tea. Denise, you like that, right? That was so lovely. That was one of the reasons to even go, you know, is just for the break. I was thinking today, before I saw there were going to be a number of people, about having walking meditation, but I don't know now that there's so many of you, whether we may have to think about that for another time, to maybe put pistas, to maybe put, you know, like lanes or something, so we know where to walk. So we're not like walking over each other and stuff. But I probably have enough to say today that I can use up that time that we were going to walk. Anyways, who's new to Saladana? Can you raise your hand? Any hands in? No, all.
I'm not sure you can see the people in that area of the hall.
No. So if there's someone over there with their hand up, I cannot see them now.
Exactly. So there are at least two people over there raising their hands.
Okay, well, welcome. Welcome. And what about new to meditation? Are they also new to meditation?
Only Martina is new to meditation.
Very good. That's the sign of an experienced meditator when they say they're new to meditation, even though they've been doing it for years.
I don't know if you heard Martina. She said it's beginner's mind.
Beginner's mind, exactly. In fact, it makes such a powerful and useful perspective for all of us to have, a beginner's mind, an open mind, to have a mind free of any expectations and even free of any hope for anything. In fact, I was reading through some quotes by Friedrich Nietzsche, okay, the great philosopher, 19th century philosopher. And one of the quotes goes something like, he goes, I like Buddhism. Buddhism offers nothing and fulfills everything. Christianity offers everything and fulfills nothing. He was not known for maybe subtlety, but that's really the attitude that I would like to impart, that I would like to practice myself. And that's to have no expectations, no wants. It's that craving that causes us to suffer. And to just be with whatever arises with kind of a detached curiosity. That really is the key to a deep happiness, not like I'm so happy happiness, but this contentment, this deep contentment. It comes from not wanting. I mean, of course we have to want certain things. We have to go out and get them. We need to get a job, presumably, and we need to feed ourselves and those basic things. But even there, we want to try to do it with the least amount of expectation as possible. So having said that, why don't we sit for the usual 30 minutes or so. And I'm going to push a little bit on using the body. Now, if you have a practice of using your breath and you're really comfortable with that, by all means, use your breath. But if you're relatively new or you've been experiencing maybe some emotional ups and downs, some mental, obsession, I would recommend you go to the body, use the body as an anchor and feel whatever's arising in the body. And the reason I kind of push this is that I really think you get 2 for 1. You get 2 benefits for the price of 1 practice. When we drop out of the brain, the mind, and we get into the body, we've interrupted that thinking, that default thinking that just grinds away. And this one's a little bit controversial, whether it in fact works like this or not, but with our loving awareness, with our mindfulness, our atención plena in the body, we can help the nervous system dissolve or digest or process or discharge whatever might be there, which if you're emotionally kind of up and down right now, there's anxiety, whatever, you can help kind of get cleared out. Some people will argue that maybe it doesn't work like that, but to me, it seems to work like that very clearly. If I got feelings of anxiety, feelings of nervousness, feelings of shame, and if I drop out of my mind and I just feel it, goes away quick, very quick. And for those of you who maybe practice only a few minutes a day or whatever, because you have thoughts that you need to be doing something else, it's the best practice to grow your home practice, because you get down in the body you feel whatever anxiety, nervousness, that might be present, and you could sit just that much longer. But like I said, if you love the breath, or even have another practice, the mantra or whatever, by all means, you do your own practice. Any questions? Preguntas? No? Okay. I hear something. Let's see, maybe, yeah, there we go. Okay, so here we go. Find a comfortable posture. And we want a posture that kind of represents what it is that we are doing here. So modeling, for instance, the posture of the Buddha that you see in many statues and paintings and so forth, this kind of reminds the mind what we're doing, what we're going to do, what we are doing. So especially if you're sitting on the floor, you want your back straight, not rigid, but straight. Maybe the head is tilted ever so slightly downward to open up the vertebrae in the back, but also transmit a noble gesture, humble gesture. You could have your hands placed on your knees, up or down, up usually for a little more energy, down if you have too much energy, or you could have them in your lap. There's different ways you can put them in your lap. And let's just bring the awareness to the body. Bring the attention to the body. The body's the key to this whole thing. It's our portal to the present moment. So just feel it. Experience it. Observe it. Maybe there's currents of energy, pulsing, pulsating, and maybe not. Maybe it's so calm that you don't notice anything. Notice the weight of the body. How Mother Nature holds us just right with her gravity. And maybe notice points of contact where your body is touching the cushion, the chair, the floor. Maybe there's points of discomfort. That's okay. We don't need to move. We can just notice, feel it, be aware of it. Just feeling the body, feeling the posture. You might try that particular perspective, you could say, or imagining that we can feel the whole posture at once, the sitting posture. So it's an open awareness, much more so than if you're following the breath. If you're sleepy, if you have drowsiness, then this one might increase the drowsiness, in which case then you probably want to go to the breath. And for those of you who like the breath works for you, let's go to the breath now. And for those of you who want to keep working with the body, just stay with the body. And when the mind wanders, which it's going to do many, many times, we just notice that, we're attentive to that, and then we try to let that thinking go, come back to the body, come back to the posture. Reconnect, feel it. And now for the breath, for those of you who want to practice with the breath. So first, we want to find it. Where do we feel it? Maybe you notice the breath most obviously in the belly. The beautiful anchor, the belly, the movement of the belly, because it combines many of the benefits of the body with the breath. When we connect to the belly, to the movement of the belly, we're sending a message to the nervous system that all is well, we're safe. You might also notice the breath at the chest or at the nostrils. The nostrils being the most narrow, which if you're sleepy is a good place to focus. If you are excited, energized, then you might want a more open awareness, the belly or the body. And these are not hard and fast rules, but just kind of general suggestions. And so with the breath, you just follow it. Follow the rhythm of the breath, the rhythm of the inhale and the out and the exhale. These you can count if you want, count up to 5 maybe, counting the exhales preferably. Start again when you get to 5, start again if you get lost. And lastly, if the body is just not working for you today, you can use hearing, listening, sounds as an anchor. A very receptive, calming form of meditation, sounds, hearing. So let's just practice for a while, coming back to your chosen anchor again and again, without criticism, without judgment, hopefully with some friendliness and some curiosity. If you have a practice of labeling, and if this is supportive, you can use simple one-word labels to track your experience, support your practice. For instance, with the breath, inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, up, thinking, thinking, returning, inhaling, exhaling. And even with the body, feeling or sensing, sensing. It's a wholesome use of words and labels. So hopefully the mind is a little more centered, calm. We've been meditating now some 20 minutes. So if you're willing, I invite you to open your awareness to whatever calls your attention, whatever is most obvious, and let that be your anchor. Pay attention to that, whatever it might be. So if it's sounds, let sounds be the anchor, the object of your attention. If it's physical sensation, let that be the object. If nothing is more obvious than the breath, then just let the breath be the object. And if it's thought, try that out. See if you can pay attention to the thought. And so you're moving around, or that is, the objects are changing and your attention is moving around. But we have a continuity of mindfulness. We have a continuity of attention. Just the same as if it was a single object. And in the back of our mind, we just notice how things move around, how things change, how they arise, stay a short moment, and then pass away. Being aware of one of the three characteristics of all conditioned phenomena, that they're impermanent. Nothing is permanent forever. And if this is too confusing or disorienting, please just stay with one anchor as before. No problem. Very good. So no matter where your attention has been or how the meditation has gone, it's all in the past now. Let's return to the body. Re-infusing the body with awareness, reunifying the mind and the body, yoga. So just dropping down into the body again with awareness, feeling the body, experiencing any sensations. Might even be emotions, maybe a little bit of discomfort or even pain, body parts sleeping. Just notice. And then if you're willing, bringing your attention to the heart center, the heart space in the chest. And mentally thanking yourself for your practice, for the goodness of your practice, for taking time out this Sunday to connect with yourself in this way, care for yourself, nourish yourself, nurture yourself, and by extension, care for all beings. And then just imagining you can radiate out from your heart space this goodwill, this metta, this loving kindness to include everybody in Saladana, everybody on this call, everybody in our Sangha, and then radiating out in all directions. And when you hear the sound of the bell, just noticing what arises. There's a thought, a feeling, and again, we just observe it, just notice it, let it come and go. Change my view here. Thank you all very much. Did this wrong here. I want to go more like, how did I do that? There we go. So is there anybody who would like to share or maybe has a question about their practice, comment? Okay, seems like not. That's okay. I will call on you. No. It's nice that I can see 3, 6, 9, 11 people and 2 other mats. I can see like 13 mats anyways. That's nice. So I thought first I'm just going to give a kind of a brief sort of summary as how I see the value of meditation. And then I was going to dive in a little bit deeper into a theme that is often or sometimes called, it's like feeding the fire, I think is how it's often thought of, which as soon as I said that, I realized in California, my state where I grew up and raised my kids and so forth, has so many fires right now. Oh my God, it's maybe not the best thought of that as the theme there, but 4 or 5 major fires that have already destroyed thousands of homes and are threatening so much more beautiful nature. But anyways, we're not going to talk about that. But first, just doing a little summary as to how I see how practice can work in our lives. This particular life here, this material world that we have to deal with every day. We're not monks or nuns where we get to live in a monastery, and we're not, deities living wherever deities live. We got to deal with life as it is, right? And what I have found is, especially kind of initially, and then when I say initially, I'm talking maybe like the first couple of years of practice, I think it's very helpful to also study a little bit about it, learn about it. Because much of the benefit comes from, you could say, like a new pair of glasses, having kind of a different perspective or point of view. And the meditation helps us see more clearly, but without the teachings, even though our glasses might be new or cleaner or whatever, without the teachings, we may not see it. It might take many years to see it. So I encourage you all to, be curious. And I know some of you already are, and some of you know plenty, maybe more than I. But for those of you who are kind of new, there at Saladana, we have a lending library where you can borrow a book in Spanish or English. We also have books that are free, given to us by different monasteries. And it's really, I think it's helpful. It's very helpful, or coming on classes like this where, we impart a little bit of the teachings. The very first factor in the Noble Eightfold Path is right view, seeing things as they are, seeing things clearly. The very first of the Four Noble Truths is about suffering. It's about knowing our suffering. Well, that for some people, that could be kind of confusing. What does that mean? What does that mean that I have to get to know my suffering? And so a little bit of reading, a little bit of study can really go a long way, right? And so kind of projecting that a little bit ahead. So we learn the fundamentals, we learn the basic teachings, and there are a montón of teachings about Buddhism. I mean, there's, thousands of books, thousands of pages, and I don't know how many discourses that the Buddha is alleged to have given. You could spend a whole life doing it. You don't need to do that much. Do what's right for you. But at some kind of point, your practice will start to sort of pick up a momentum of its own, and you won't need to study so much. You just practice. You sit, and maybe you started off sitting 10, 15 minutes a day at home, and then maybe it grows to 30 minutes or something. And then it starts to get into the 45-minute a day, hour a day range. And when you get there, you will start to see, almost for sure, you'll start to see in your life changes. You'll start to see, it becomes palpable. I'm not saying it right. Palpable, woof, that there are changes, that maybe you are less reactive to stimuli, right, that you come across in the world. You are less maybe self-critical, or maybe less critical of others, less judgmental, right? These things will just start to fall away on their own. You don't actually have to do anything except practice. They will just kind of change on their own. This is pretty much a promise or your money back. And then you keep practicing, and maybe you stay at that number of like an hour a day, which you could break up however you want. Maybe it's 20 minutes 3 times, or 20 meditations for 3 minutes, or, which one very prominent Tibetan teacher thinks is, it's actually better to meditate 20 times for 3 minutes than it is for one sitting of an hour, if during that hour you're just struggling the whole time. We don't want to struggle. And then what will happen, and this is not necessarily exactly as I'm saying it, but could happen in this line, this order, that then compassion will start to naturally arise. And loving kindness will just start to naturally arise. And you'll notice yourself, smiling, and maybe you do this already, but, smiling at a little child or a puppy dog, or, an old person who's still out there, trying to get some exercise or whatever. All these things will generate a different response, an appropriate response, a loving, caring response. In this perspective, we're all connected. We're one, really. You could look at it as the human race, or however you want to look at it. We are all interconnected and connected. And when we start to see this, which comes, then even somebody that we might have, resisted before, we'll just see them as another extension of ourself. And this stuff just starts to happen. We don't need to do anything. This practice is so much about not doing anything, right? There's even a saying, I think it's like, don't do something, just sit there, right? Which is kind of the opposite of how we think in the Western world, which is don't sit there, do something. Well, this is the exact opposite of that. But changes will start to happen, and I'm not saying it's going to be 100%, that you're going to be a completely different person or whatever. You could be, but it'll be noticeable. And I'm almost, if you're here on this Zoom call or in Saladana, then you probably want those things. You want more spaciousness, you want more love in your life, you want more compassion in your life, you want less reactivity in your life, you want less self-criticism and judgment and so forth. But it's really, because here's the problem, as soon as we don't like that about ourselves, as soon as we want to change that, see, now we're doing exactly what we want to change. We're being averse to ourself. We're like hating ourself, or hating that part of ourself, that is maybe autocritica. It's, criticizes us. Let's see, one of my teachers, Mark Coleman, he writes a lot about this. The inner critic, he calls it the inner critic, right? So it's because it's kind of like it's in our brain or whatever, in our mind, and it criticizes, blah, 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 blah. The inner critic, some of us have that really bad, really bad. Like, for some of us, we can't do right by our inner critic. The inner critic criticizes us for everything, Well, as soon as we hate the inner critic, we're just generating more toxicity, right? We're just generating more hate and more criticism. And that isn't going to bring us where we want to be. So instead, we just practice. We notice the inner critic. The inner critic comes in, oh, you're not meditating right. Oh, you only stayed with 2 breaths, or why are you daydreaming? And we can talk to it and say, thank you for your opinion, but I think I'm just going to keep on meditating. Or if it's really insistent, thank you for your opinion, but can we talk about this later? Or something. But trying to push away our inner critic or our judgmental mind or whatever your thing might happen to be is just going to strengthen it. It's like fuel on the fire, right? And so with that, give me 1 second. I had to close my computer, and so I had it up, and now I got to go fetch it again. But just hold on, because I thought I'd put it on share screen because there's a quote from the Buddha, and I want to get it. Just give me one little moment here. Sometimes getting it right from the Buddha's words can be very helpful. Let's see here. So I'm going to bold it, and now I'll come back to you guys. I'm going to do share screen. So hopefully, Lara, Denise, can you see the bolded paper there? Okay. So I'll just go ahead and read it. And allegedly, this was said by the Buddha, or maybe translated, because it does have a couple kind of modern words, but this is what the Buddha is alleged to have said. Just as if a great massive fire of 10, 20, 30, 40 cartloads of dry wood were burning, even so people would periodically throw dry grass, dry cow dung, dry timber, so that the great massive fire, thus nourished, thus sustained, would burn for a long, long time. Okay, it just keeps on burning. We put more fuel on it, it keeps on burning. Even so, practitioners, that's us, right? Bhikkhus, you could call us, and one who keeps focusing on the allure of those phenomena that offer the sustenance, that fuel that neurotic, this is one of the words, I wonder if the Buddha actually said it, but the fuel for that neurotic activity, which we call suffering, being caught up in the drama. It's funny how it's kind of translated, but we get caught up in the drama. We get caught up in this neurotic activity. And when we get caught up in it, we're feeding it. We're giving it dry grass. We're giving it dry cow dung. We're giving it dry timber. And it just keeps on burning. With craving, wanting, right, as a condition, sustenance as a condition, becoming, like becoming me or becoming something, we become the one who wants or wants to get rid of. With becoming as a condition, we are in the cycle of birth. We are now in that bubble. That's another word. I wonder if the Buddha actually said that, bubble. We have taken birth as the person who thinks, if only, and we suffer in that bubble. That is the origin of the entire mass of suffering and stress. Little weird, the language and the way it's translated. And I might have some grammatical, even in the translation, might be a little bit off. But from the Buddhist perspective, maybe it is interesting that for most Eastern philosophies, including the Dalai Lama, they don't quite understand our Western inner critic thing so much. I guess they just, the way they're raised and so forth, because a lot of times the inner critic, right, it isn't us. The inner critic, if you notice it, it'll be the voice of maybe a grandmother or your father or somebody from the past, right? Because in our Western culture, we tend, or Europe, especially European-based cultures, we tend to motivate ourselves through criticism, right? I mean, Spain is a wonderful country, one of the most phenomenal countries in the world, and everybody complains about it. It's never good enough, you know. France is the same. I've been here in France, and they complain, but people respond to complaint. They respond to criticism, and then they make things better. They're miserable, but the trains are working. It's safer. You know, you have free healthcare, all this kind of stuff, but it's coming from a place of suffering, really. Now, in the Eastern philosophies, you don't see that as much, and that's one reason why a lot of these places are not nearly as materially as advanced, because they're quite content with the way things are. They don't have an inner critic saying, you need to build a subway station right here in my village. They don't say that. But we're Westerners for the most of us. I mean, maybe some of you are not, but for the most part. And so we're dealing mostly with this inner critic. We're dealing with the judging mind. We're dealing with a difficulty in accepting things as they are. Not only seeing them as they are, but then accepting them as they are. So I'm changing the language a little bit to the Buddha, because what he was talking about is how we crave becoming, identity. This is mine. I am somebody. You know, whatever it is, including the inner critic, it's related to becoming. But setting that aside just for a little, because that's a whole nother big talk, a very interesting one. Let's just talk on kind of a more manifest, simple term. We've got the inner critic. As soon as we criticize the inner critic, we are throwing cow dung on the fire. We're creating more criticism. And it's just going to keep on burning. The only way that we can silence that inner critic is to stop criticizing. I mean, it just makes sense, right? That's its fuel. That's what heats it up and keeps it going, you know? And for some of us, that inner critic, it's not going to go away in a day. It might not even go away in a million days. But with practice, it gets quieter, more distant, a little bit softer, criticizes less. It just happens with practice. You know, and there's many reasons that I could go into as to kind of why that is. One of the ones I really like, though, and as I kind of see it, is when we're sitting here, just sitting, paying attention to our breath, feeling our body, whatever it is, we are giving ourselves this big, compassionate empathy bath, right? We're letting the mind just be the mind and just be relaxed. And when the mind, it's almost like the mind is another entity separate from whatever the hell we are, and I'm not even sure what we are, but let's just say for now we're just the observer. That's who we really are. We're the observer, the one who can observe and notice. And then the mind, when it's just being watched, it relaxes. It chills out, right? In fact, it's almost like when it's not being watched, it gets loud. Hey, look at me. Okay, I'll look at you. And then it just kind of relaxes. And the autocritic, that inner critic, just kind of relaxes. And so to conclude kind of on this, and the big push, right? When I am a pusher, I've got the inner push, the inner pushers in my head. But it's to just push, to do nothing, to just sit as much as you can. And for those of you, I know a lot of us, not me, but a lot of people, they lost their job during COVID. Many jobs got phased out. Hopefully they're going to come back. But meanwhile, we have a little more time. Now, for me, I decided I'm going to meditate 2 hours a day. I got to stay inside. I'm going to meditate 2 hours a day. Now I can go outside, but I'm still doing it because I love it. It's just been the best thing to happen to me. So 2 hours, that's a lot. But maybe you can get to that 45 minutes, or maybe you can get to that hour, and bringing it all the way back to the body. If your mind is saying, no, you should be looking for a job, or, you should write these letters, or you should read these emails, drop into the body, feel whatever tension, stress, contraction, nervousness, wanting that thought created. Feel it with your observing mind, with that mindfulness, and you probably will be able to dissolve it long enough to sit for another 5 minutes, or however long it'll be before it comes up again. And just keep doing it as much as you can. Because the rewards are there. The rewards will come. You don't need to do anything more than that. Anyways, that was maybe kind of strong. I hope wasn't too scary. But I will stop there. And maybe now there's somebody who has a question or a comment. Yes, sir.
I think sometimes I am criticizing me, but I am not realize that I am criticizing.
So, Jim, did you get that?
Unfortunately not. I got it maybe 2/3 maybe or something. Can you repeat it? Or
that he does not realize how he's criticizing himself, right? Is that more or less the question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, yes. This is absolutely. And this is one of the benefits, and one of the reasons why we sit is to get to know ourselves, or get to know our mind, right? So when you're sitting quietly and you're not distracting yourself with things, you're stuck with your mind and its thoughts, its habits, its tendencies. And then you'll start to notice, oh my gosh, I criticize myself a lot, or, my mind criticizes me. This is part of the practice. And with the practice, over time, we become more and more aware of our tendencies. We become more and more aware when the mind is being critical. And that gives us a little bit of control, because we'll notice it and we can thank it for its opinion and let it go. And maybe we have to do this 100 times in a day. But if there is the saying, ignorance is bliss, but no, denial, ignorance is the cause of suffering. It is the absolute cause of suffering. Illusion, right? And it's much better to be aware. So yeah, but especially if you have a lot of criticism coming from the mind, at first it'll be difficult. So I did a bike ride today, as I often do on Sundays, and I saw a number of these children on just learning how to ride their bike. And they're like, going like this. And I'm surprised that sometimes they don't fall, they're just wobbling all over the place. Well, our meditation practice can kind of seem like that at first, right? Where it's just all over, criticisms, wandering off, daydreaming, whatever. But over time, just like riding a bike, then it starts to stabilize, starts to go forward, and these things start to fall in place. So my suggestion is just give it some time. Wonderful. The fact that you're now aware is huge. That's a victory. That is an accomplishment, right? Great. And then just keep on going, and they'll start to fall away. But don't expect. Don't have any expectations. Just keep on practicing. Thank you for your question. Anyone else? Yeah, Lara, please. I'm sure we'll get some wisdom from Lara. I always appreciate it.
It's a question, actually.
Oh.
I was very curious about the point about the subway and the inner critic flagging a gap, and then how we try to address that gap. And you mentioned that in other cultures, that inner critic is less developed, let's say. So it might be there, but it's not as big as we feel it. So I really don't know how it is not to have a huge inner critic. And I wonder, how can we combine both things? As you well said, we are in the West. We want to progress. We are ambitious.
Yeah.
How can we do that without the inner critic? What is that other thing that pushes us forward in a healthier way?
Yeah, such a beautiful question. I have my opinion as to what a good answer would be. The time, so just I want to, for those of you who especially who are in Saladana, so we're kind of at the end of when we usually finish, and we usually do a little metta meditation. But is there any problem if maybe we go a couple, 2 minutes, 3 minutes over? Is there any, and if you need to leave, is that okay? Okay. So this is kind of a perspective that I've developed where I've brought in the needs-based consciousness of, say, nonviolent communication, for instance. And it can apply to Buddhism or whatever, but they're very specific, and I very much like it. So when I, for instance, put together, and others, not just me, but Saladana, right? Brought in all that stuff, put in the floor, all that kind of stuff. What motivated me to do it wasn't the inner critic so much as it was love, it was service, it was fun, it was challenging. Mostly it was in Spanish. What a challenge that was. But I love challenge. It was just an expression of my gratitude to Spain, to Madrid, to the people who had been coming to my house at that point for years, and I think, you could look at Saladana. Hopefully someday, Lara, you'll be able to see it in person. It's a beautiful space, and it was not put together by the inner critic. It was not motivated by the inner critic. It was motivated by love. It was motivated by a desire to have a wonderful space. And we can do things just as beautiful as the most magnificent, material objects that there are in Europe and so forth, out of these other positive needs, which all needs really are positive in my view, rather than that criticism. And I think that also comes with practice. It just comes with practice, where the heart softens, you feel it, and you want to just share it with everybody. I mean, to me, this is an expression of my wanting to share the wonderful rewards I've gotten from practice. And to see, these people in there right now, it just brings me so much joy. I can't tell you. It just makes my heart quiver. Quivering heart. Yeah. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. So it's more from abundance than scarcity.
Yeah. And sure, scarcity, those things, they do motivate us. There's absolute, but at the when we're motivated by scarcity, we come at it from a whole different direction than when we're motivated by abundance and wanting to share. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, well, why don't we do a little metta meditation, which for those of you who are new, this is one where we're going to use some phrases. And really, again, it's coming from abundance. In the perspective, the Buddhist perspective, loving kindness is infinite. There's no limit. There's no limit whatsoever. No scarcity. Sometimes we have to do a little work to connect to it, but no limit whatsoever. So I often put my hands on my heart center to really remind myself, coming from that space. And so for those of you who are new, I will say some phrases out loud where we're going to offer this kindness, this goodwill, first to ourselves, then to somebody you love, then to somebody difficult, then to all beings. Here we go. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be safe. May I live with ease. And so now let's bring to mind somebody you really love unconditionally, just adore this person or being, could be a pet, could be a public figure, could be the Buddha, Christ. Imagine them present, offer them metta. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. And now a difficult person, what is often called the difficult being or person. It's a little more challenging, but try to bring to mind somebody you have a little resentment towards, or somebody who did or didn't do something that hurt your feelings. Somebody who's just not cooperating. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. And then finally, all beings. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings live with ease. And lastly, to conclude our session this Sunday with the tradition of renouncing, of letting go, of giving. Take the fruit of our practice, the merit of our practice, our Sangha, the teachings, and our Buddha nature, our true nature. Take these things and offer them up to the benefit of all beings. May all beings be happy and peaceful, healthy and strong, safe and protected. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, free from war and violence, discrimination, racism, and coronavirus and all its variants. And may all beings find their practice that will lead to the end of their suffering, that will lead to their happiness. May all beings be free. Once again, thank you very much. Just a couple quick announcements. One is about Dana, which is the practice of generosity, which we practice at Saladana, hence the name. And this is an experiment here in the West, but so far so good, where we teachers, we offer the teachings freely without any charge, and also the space and so forth. And the practitioners, the people who come, are also able to practice and invited to practice generosity. So you can leave a financial donation in the box. Well, there's two boxes, should be, in the entrada there. When I'm leading, I like just for Saladana, but for others, and I'm going to tell you about the others in a moment here, the other teachers, many of them use the donations for their gastos and so forth. So give as generously as you can, and all donations are appreciated. And there's absolutely no requirement. If you're not in a position to leave a donation, don't worry about it. Just keep coming back. Thank you very much. And you can also help us clean up, put everything away, make sure there's not plastic bottles or whatever left behind, and, kind of like, with a little bit of love and care, right? Because it's a community space, really. No, there's nobody there to clean up after us. And then secondly, so now that summer is over or the vacations are over, we have a full roster, and maybe we'll even add a couple more. But for September, on the Saladana website, saladana.org, you can see the various classes. And then also on the meetup group, which we've cleaned it up a little bit. No more online things, just the presenciales. And please do apuntar with the meetup so we stay within our 20-person limit. And I do want to announce a couple new classes. So Martina, who should be to your guys' right, yep, there I can see her arm. She's going to be offering a session on Thursdays, also in English. And she's an amazing teacher. She's been coming to Saladana and then to our house for, 5 years, I think, or more. So that will be Thursday, I believe, at 8:00. And please, hopefully you will join Martina for that. And then Wednesdays, David is going to be leading in Spanish. And then also Monday, it looks like Chemamuela also will be leading on Monday. I don't know exactly whether, because he has so many followers, that one could book quite quickly. And I don't know exactly how they're going to do that, but that's Monday. And so we've got now Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday sessions in Spanish, Thursday and Sunday in English. Oh, and then we have Jose, who's been doing or did his first, and hopefully he'll do many more intensive practice on Saturday mornings. So look at that. And then there's a couple other classes on Sunday, and then also yoga. So lots going on at Saladana, and hopefully there'll be a little bit more. And then lastly, I don't know, maybe hopefully you guys will go out and have something to eat. Please think of me if you do. That's another ritual, you might say, that we have after the Sunday group, is to go enjoy some vegetarian food. And a big thank you to Carlos for doing this. And I know the more people there are, Carlos, the more work it is for you. But thank you so much for your service. It really is appreciated. So that's all I've got. I will stay here for a moment if anybody wants to say anything, or you guys could just keep sitting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Carlos, I think the air conditioning guy is supposed to come this week, and I gave him Nacho's number, so hopefully get that fixed.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jim.
Great. Thank you. And Lara and Denise, thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining me on
Javier
Zoom.
wants to say something.
Appreciate it.
This week, the tormenta in Spain was called Dana.
Yeah. Oh, is that right? Well, I hope she was generous, but not, yeah, but not with rain. Yeah. Okay. Bye now.